Today we're talking with Sean Youngwing, a musician, photographer, and YouTuber from Trinidad. I'm hoping at the end of this discussion we know everything about recording and publishing, distribution, and marketing a song in Trinidad and Tobago. So Sean, it's a real big pleasure to have you here. And thank you very much for coming, sir.
My pleasure, bro.
Sean, tell me a little bit about Tie-Dye Kitty and God's Gift of Annoyance.
The song God's Gift of Annoyance was written strictly for Trinidad radio. God's Gift of Annoyance was written in the perspective of most women when they go to a nightclub. There's always that one guy that approaches them that feels he is God's gift to women, but they are really an annoyance. That song was written in the perspective of the woman that is annoyed by this guy that is approaching them. And is also written for 9-5 back in the day when they used to play local music. I always give short answers for some reason because this is a somewhat interview that I'm slightly uncomfortable being on camera for some reason.
Would you like us to take off the camera?
No. It's the whole atmosphere that you have created here. This is very professional, I must say.
Oh gosh, thank you very much. I
I'm
appreciate
privileged
that.
and I really appreciate this. I just want you to know that because you're one of the content creators in this country that I really appreciate. And I'm not just saying that because we have developed a friendship over the past 2 hours, you know, with the doubles and everything that we had this morning.
Yeah, Sean and I went for Sahina this morning in our
You had Sahina, right?
He had 2 doubles.
And an RC cooler.
And now we have an apple juice.
Yeah, we have an apple juice. After the dal, rice, and bhaji, what is your biggest food addiction?
Well, it's definitely not dal rice and bhaji because I refuse to eat dal rice and bhaji. But I don't have any particular food addictions, but what I realize is that I am trying to control my portions a little bit more, especially since I hit 40 recently. So food addiction, boy, you see chocolate, boy, I have a real problem with chocolate.
That is also mine. But the dark chocolate, like the semi-sweet, I think that is the bomb. Because it's unlike coffee, I drink coffee with no sugar, no cream. And coffee and like dark chocolate is that for me also. I just thought I'd mention that.
Yeah.
Because you were talking about it.
But any particular brand?
No, just total dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
The more bitter it is, the better.
That does anything for your singing voice?
No. Absolutely not.
And I should mention that Sean is a fantastic singer. Sean, looking at your work, I think you're a really talented guy. Mm-hmm. And I know I want to talk to you particularly about the music industry in Trinidad and Tobago today.
Very cool.
But looking at your body of work, your interest in YouTube and different stuff that you have there is a fantastic portfolio that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this is the first of what I hope would be many discussions because I know if we try to fit everything in, including chocolate addiction and this apple juice and this apple juice that you introduced me to, the conversation will never end. So cheers. Now, along the lines of being an independent musician in Trinidad, and that is what I want to focus on today. Because I am a self-published writer.
Which is really cool also.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I'm thinking about all the work that goes into it from, my point of view. I'm doing the writing, I'm doing the editing, the formatting, hooking up with printers, production, and then the marketing. So tell me a little bit about what it means to be an independent musician, especially in Trinidad and Tobago. And that story of Tie-Dye Kitty and what would lead to you all producing a music video that you posted on YouTube about 7 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And give me the long story.
Well, I'm going to try, but I mean, that's like a 4-part question, right? So I'll have to remember each and every part in order to deliver the answer.
All right, let's start with the
let's start with the first part of it, right? The independent musician aspect. Just like you in terms of self-publishing, the reason that you probably went down the self-publishing route is because you could not find anybody locally that could take your book and put it on an international format that ice will break in the... Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so you could not find anyone locally that would actually take your book and put it on an international forum or store. So therefore, you had to take up the mantle upon yourself to do it. Being independent in Trinidad is not necessarily something that we want to do because it is actually giving yourself more work. What I needed to do was find somebody else that will take up the mantle of putting out my music for me. But there is no one necessarily in Trinidad that takes that pop rock style of music and promotes it. So it was left up to me if I really wanted it to actually do it. So I had to do the research of finding out how to record, how to produce, how to mix, master every one of my songs. And then comes into the aspect of doing some sort of video content that will make it or put it in another place where people could enjoy it in another medium, which was video. So that is why the birth of SYW came into play, which is another story by itself. But it's difficult to get noticed until you do it yourself, because you cannot give somebody or show somebody your dream until they could actually listen to it, see it, smell it, or any of the other five senses. You have to find a way of presenting it for yourself so that other people could see your dream, which is difficult until you give them a finished product. And that is the reason that I went down the whole self-producing, self-promotion aspect by myself, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of it.
So you only ended up in YouTube videos to promote tie-dye kitty?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because other than that, you would have to find somebody that will take the mantle upon themselves as a content creator to embrace your dream and therefore find a way to promote what you want to the general public. But in terms of tie-dye kitty, there was no one that would see that dream until I give them the dream to actually hold in their hands or see on a video for themselves. That's why I had to take up video production also.
Okay, and you mentioned something about being a pop rock band. Is it that if you were into another genre of music, whether it's soca, that it would have been a little bit easier for you as an artist?
Yes, because the music industry in Trinidad is set up for soca music. And talking about soca music, how do I put this without shooting myself in the foot? In my opinion, this is my opinion, do not shoot me for this, but Trinidadians sold out or killed Kaiso music for soca music. In fact, they actually killed rapso music for soca music as well, because you had two other genres of music, which is Kaiso, which is rapso, that could have also lived long lives in addition to soca. But because Trinidadians decided that soca was it, they turned their backs on two other art forms and two other genres of music that had an international appeal to chase after one. So instead of having three, you only chase after one, which is very unfortunate, and in my opinion, right? Because instead of, let's say if we implement Pan also, Pan started off with the whole aspect of, it started off with people like Kitchener, who was Kaiso, right? So Pan was built upon Kaiso music, and now it went into groovy soca, which was real good for Pan. But how do you translate soca music into Pan? It's a very hard field, because soca music is more techno-oriented, dance-oriented than in terms of melody, you know? So it's unfortunate that we killed all these other genres of music that we created to chase after one of them. Yeah. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, no. It making sense, and it frightening what you're saying. But from a business perspective, I could see, your companies, businesses, producers, whoever may be responsible for putting the music together, that they realize that because if we talk in YouTube and making videos and reaching people, then we suddenly start saying, well, okay, we may be making videos this particular way, but let's see if we could adjust it a little bit to appeal more to the wider audience, because that's where the money and the finances may come from. So it's like you're killing a part of your culture, and whether it is like the I never thought about that before. Where you say there that the soca music could be killing the
Kaiso and the Rapso
and the steel pan, because you can't necessarily translate these songs easily into it, but then it becomes necessary because it's what has global appeal.
Yeah, but even so, if you go to like a place like Louisiana, you have jazz bands that are performing in clubs on that stretch, and they play basically like the root of what Kaiso was. But we have turned our backs on that, and it is, as you said, frightening and disappointing in my sense, because my parents listened to a lot of Kaiso. Trinidad's carnival was based on the Kaiso tents. Now you realize that all that industry has been killed for soca. In fact, you don't even really hear about groovy soca to that extent. Everything is road march, because Trinidad has also based all of their promotions around a competition. So it's no longer about what is good, but what is quick. And that is a big issue that we have. Everything has to be a competition in Trinidad. We have to make sure that everybody turns their back on each other to chase one dream. You know? I support this artist because they have the best song and nobody else gets any recognition, no matter how good their song might be. It did not win Road March. I am not going to listen to it. In fact, it goes as far as we are so seasonal and time date stamped that if you are a DJ playing, let's say, a 2019 Soca Monarch competition winner in a party of 2023, everybody is like stand still. They don't want to listen to anything from the past. They only want to hear the future. So we are constantly running down the future and forgetting our past, which is a really big issue in my books also. Disappointing.
But whose responsibility is it to keep that alive? Is that the listeners, the viewers, the producers? Whose responsibility is it?
The listener. Straightforward, the listener.
But how do you get me to listen to something that I'm not particularly interested in?
Well, the thing about it is that you know that, okay, for instance, Black Man Feeling to Party. You could play that in any event and the crowd goes wild. There's a conga line. But why isn't who wrote that song? Black Stallion? Where was everybody for Black Stallion's funeral? Where was everybody when Black Stallion was... did he die recently? Yes. Where was everybody for his fundraisers, his medical expenses? No one was around. I'm not saying no one was around. There would have been. But this is a national icon of Trinidad and Tobago that basically died a lonely death as far as I'm concerned.
But realistically...
I don't mean to get all...
No. That's fine. But I mean, I want to weigh this from the point of view of realistically, you have limited resources. I could think about, I spoke to a writer some time ago, and one of the things we were talking about is, he said he won the Commonwealth Short Story Prize, and he said, people don't recognize you until
you make it.
You do something, and you do it particularly out there.
This is what we spoke about in your clubhouse, right? And the reason for that is that Trinidadians do not appreciate their art form. They do not. I know I shoot myself in the foot constantly here, but this is the perspective from a person who listens to another genre of music. I listen to rock music, but I appreciated Kaiso. I wouldn't perform it, I wouldn't play it, but I appreciated it. I appreciate Pan to a certain extent. But when you have a culture of a country that is constantly chasing next year Carnival instead of what happened, what made Carnival what it is frightening. We are constantly looking forward and we do not appreciate our history. And it shows in every aspect. I mean, For instance, I passed in front of what it was, the City Gate. City Gate is the train station. Yet, where are the trains? The train is in another building across the street from the train station and is out in the sun and is getting beat by the elements, and no one is taking care of it. In fact, the Hummingbird 2, which is the ship that circumnavigated the globe, is also sitting down under a shed in disrepair. So how can we, as a country, move forward if we are constantly forgetting our past? Because if you go to school and you are studying any subject, you have to learn the history of it before you know how to move forward. You know? So coming back to being a pop rock artist, pop rock or rock music was one of the fundamentals of the 70s that if you ask anybody that listens to that style of music, they still listen to music from the 60s, the 70s, Elvis, regardless of what decade it was, they still listen to a lot of it, and they listen to current. But in terms of our local culture, we only listen to what is present. And that, in my opinion, is our failure.
So tell me, as somebody who's into pop rock, what are you doing to support other local artists who perform in the pop rock?
That is also a good question. Right. So any artist that wants to record their music, I would say you can WhatsApp me a live version of that song that you did in your band room. And then from there, we will start to talk if it is profitable to, let's say, move forward. Or even if it's not profitable to move forward, I will show you how to manage this song or your songs in terms of the business side of it. Because the business side of it is what will actually allow you to live the life that you want to live. And that takes some time. That the music scene is a very big business. And a lot of people don't realize that, how important it is to sought after the business side of it. They think about overnight success, and that is their downfall.
Okay, so we're going to backpedal plenty here, right?
No
we're going to rewind here a lot, right? And I was, while I was kind of structuring this interview, I was wondering if this is one of the questions I should start with first. Because the reason that we're doing this podcast is that an independent musician listening to it will get a sense of this is the directions that I could take, how I need to produce my music and whatnot, right? So let's start here. Or rewind, rather.
Because this interview could take real long.
Yeah. What is an independent musician? And you go ahead. You
Okay.
keep talking.
I will try. So an independent musician is someone who decides to take upon themselves to record or find the funds to record, find the funds to mix, to master, and release music on an international basis. Now, many of the times, there is no funding unless you have a day job that you could fund your own projects. But the money could run out very fast. So in terms of a lot of musicians, they just bypass that whole role and they do not pursue their musical goals. All they do is perform in a couple bars, gain some notoriety and some fame, and they are quite content with that. But there are a handful of people, and I will call one name. And this name you might know. Is it? It's not Nadia Batson. It is... Whoa, I forgot. I forgot this girl's name. This will take a while. What is her name? Nadia Batson, a young girl who performed with Kes. Jesus. Clean out my mind.
We can always come back to it.
But anyway, her story is, I know this young girl performing with acoustic guitars in many little bar scenes around Trinidad and doing a beautiful job. She's a great songwriter. And eventually she sang one song with Kes, And right now, she's one of the biggest soca artists in the country. And she's doing a great job. And let's say after 5 to 6 years of doing that whole soca thing, she is now introducing her passion for us in terms of the way that she writes her songs and the way that she sings. And it is now on her latest release, which she did with, I can't remember his name also, but we'll have to interject this at some point. It's unfortunate that I cannot remember her name.
But what you're saying here, that she's able, she hit the ground running, she performing at band scenes, and then she's working at she produced music that was, I want to be sure that I understand in here.
She was a pop rock artist. And the only time that she got popular is when she went into the soca arena. And now that she has a fan base, she has gone back into her own music with a soca flair.
Now, interestingly, while I think about it,
Rashiotia's granddaughter, what's her name?
Nyla Blackman?
Nyla Blackman. Nyla Blackman is a brilliant songwriter. If you see this girl sit down with an acoustic guitar and sing songs, it's like, wow. You could put her by herself in any little acoustic bar, not in Trinidad, but in Europe, and she will gain a following. Brilliant little songwriter. Well, I'm saying little, but I know her little. She's big now. She's a big woman, but beautiful.
And that's the intriguing thing, because the same thing applies. I feel like the same thing applies for even YouTube videos, that you could, to some extent, you create content that people may be more generally interested in. And then you have the opportunity to say, okay, well, once you have a bigger base, let me kind of more venture out into who I may be. Mm-hmm. And then people kind of go along with the ride. So
so you have to build a fan base, But what I'm saying in terms of independent writing, she did not get any notoriety whatsoever performing pop rock in Trinidad until she went into soca. And I know a lot of musicians who are great guitarists, keyboardists, drummers that have gone into the soca field just to pay the bills. And now they perform on a regular basis, but they are not happy because it's not their true art form. It's not their creative palette. And they are somewhat saddened by the fact that that is the only way that they can pay their bills. Versus if they were living in another country where they have the choice, I can play jazz, I can play rock, I can play pop, techno. There's more acceptance for different genres. But in Trinidad, everything is soca-oriented or pan-oriented in order to find some sort of fame or notice, for that matter.
As an independent musician in Trinidad, are you happy?
No.
You want to tell me a little bit about why you're not happy?
I take a deep breath. How can I put this nicely? Remember on the Clubhouse, I spoke about respect for artists in terms of if an acoustic show is happening in another country, someone is sitting in a bar playing an acoustic guitar singing songs, the whole crowd goes silent and they listen and they appreciate being in the space that they're in. In Trinidad, you do that same thing. The sound system needs twice the amount of power to cover people's yapping and talking and cussing and everything because no one shuts up, no one listens. They are too involved in the lime than they are to the performance, which goes back again to the way that our promotions are done in terms of our whole culture in terms of music is only a competition. There is no appreciation for the music itself. It is who wins, who loses, that's their problem.
So is it that musicians are performing in the wrong places or we don't have enough spaces for the musicians?
We don't have places for the musicians. In addition to that, you're looking at no matter how good you are, let's say Lyndon Baptiste. Lyndon Baptiste goes into a bar. Lyndon Baptiste plays his guitar and he sings. And the crowd loves him. The bar hires him every week to come and perform. but it's the same audience. And the audience will grow weary of Lyndon Baptiste's talent. Now Lyndon Baptiste has to look for another bar to recreate that same thing to pay a bill, because the first bar has already let him go because the crowd has begun to fickle or move away from the bar because they are fed up of Lyndon Baptiste. So Lyndon Baptiste goes to bar 2 and does the same thing, builds an audience, builds a crowd. And then that bar, same thing happens. After 2-3 weeks of it, they are fed up of his performance. He now has to find another bar. So you're in a constant stage of looking for places to perform. But in reality, you're also performing to the same audience because it's the same people that frequent most of the nightclubs anyway. There is no one new. Not to mention, our local radio is not mandated to play anything local. So you cannot build a fan base other than actual performance. Nothing gets played on the radio. There's only one radio station in Trinidad that's actually playing local content right now, and that is 103, Platinum 103. Everybody else doesn't care.
And when you hear a song play, like let's say you have a song, you recorded it, which we'll get to in a bit, the radio plays it, you gain revenue from that?
Yes and no. Now, on Spotify, the average one stream, the revenue from one stream is 0.0007 cents. So how many streams does one need to buy a box of KFC? Many, thousands of streams, right? So the cost of buying your own equipment, learning to record, producing, releasing your music far exceeds the cost that you actually get on returns for putting out music. The only time that you will get any notoriety is if, let's say for some reason, a TV show picks up one of your songs and decides to sync it with a TV show. So let's say you get 15 seconds on the intro of some doctor walking out, talking to somebody in a TV show, syndicated, whatever. You will get loud money. Only if your music is copyrighted properly, published properly, and you have certain entities on an international basis that are there to collect your royalties. If you do not do these steps, then your song will not even be picked up in the first place. It will be passed over. Between $6,000 and $10,000 to record a song. Now, most of the time, they are not in a position to record that sort of music anyway, because that is live music. That is a live drum kit, live guitars, etc. They are most of the time facilitated to do only a vocal and let's say a guitar that is plugged directly into a recording interface. Everything else from there, they only know about sampling, which is a sample library where they use a keyboard or MIDI, musical instrument digital interface, to recreate the sound of instruments. So all they need is basically the vocalist, and they will try to recreate everything else within a computer. Has no feel to a real band. So they cannot do it. If you go to certain other recording studios in Trinidad that are basically bedroom producers, they have the ability that they will have at least 10 channels that they could dedicate to recording a real drum kit, and they will actually produce something for you that sounds like a real band. So that might cost you $2,000, and you will still have $500 left over to buy some sort of KFC or any drinks that you might need while doing said recording. So it's very interesting that you bring up that. But I would always suggest that you look for the bedroom producer that could actually do that for you, rather than chasing the name of a popular producer in Trinidad that will not be able to deliver what you really want. So, check me.
That goes for all genres of music, or that's particularly for like if you're into pop rock and
everything outside of soca and dance music, you need that sort of thing. You need to be able to go to somebody who can record a live instrument. And it's totally different than recording in the average studio in Trinidad, which is dedicated to dance music production, soca music production.
Would it make sense for...
No, don't get me wrong. Those guys are very talented. They know how to stack vocals. They know how to manipulate sounds and make it interesting. But they are not the type of producer that does live instrumentation. And live instrumentation is a whole different ballgame, because we spoke about bleed, which is microphone bleed. And that is a big part of live music instrumentation recording versus the producer who produces dance music who tries to kill everything else except the source input that they need. That might sound technical, I'm sorry. But yeah.
Well, I'm sure
it's very hard to clarify that.
You will bless us with a YouTube video that explains some of these things. And just to remind listeners, dear listener, Sean has a YouTube channel. He has his music on Spotify. He has Sean Young SYW Media that you could find the links in the show notes to all the work that he does. You could find it there. So please, head on over while you're listening to this podcast and go and show your love and support and tell them how Lyndon Baptiste sent you.
That is the most important thing. Lyndon Baptiste's podcast is the reason that you are there. Because Lyndon Baptiste and myself have developed a very great friendship in a 2-hour before
drinking apple juice.
Yeah, drinking apple juice before this actual podcast.
But does it make sense for that independent band to invest in their own gear and try and do it themselves, or better find the bedroom person to do it for you? Sorry, is it bedroom yourself?
Yeah, the bedroom producer. That is another great question, and I'll explain it as best as I can right now. If you invest in your own gear, trying to record your own music, the problem that you would encounter is that either your productions would lack international appeal in terms of the sonic quality, simply because you do not have the experience to produce something like that. It has a lot to do with the techniques behind the recording. You can record it, but it just won't have the impact that you think you will get. It's not that simple. Or you go down the route of actually learning like me, and you will end up in a position where you have a producer hat that you're always wearing, and you will not settle for anything less than perfect, and you will shoot yourself in the foot for this, trying to get the best sound that you can. So every time you pick up a guitar, you will decide which microphone to use, how to record it, where do I position it, etc., 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 and you'll go down a very deep, long rabbit hole, and you will get frustrated. So it is better that you spend your money and actually hire somebody that knows what they're doing. Full stop.
And let's talk to the listen. And you offer that type of service?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So folks, remember in the show notes, you could find links to all of Sean's social media and connect with him. Let's talk to the listener now that is hell-bent on, hey, I want to do this myself. And they're probably struggling with what software they should be using.
Okay, good.
Are there any sort of free tools that you could recommend that have, or any tools that whether you pay for it or is inexpensive, that is part of your arsenal that you're willing to suggest to that type of listener?
That's a really, really nice question. I would suggest you go into GarageBand, which is a Mac-based free software. So any Macintosh computer that you get or you buy will have this software. You just simply need to download it. And actually, there are so many different plugins for keyboards and so forth that you can get included in the software. And to be totally honest with you, that is all you really need. You can produce music that you can release on an international basis off of that. You do not need anything special. Because after that, it is a producing standpoint and a producer's taste that will take your music to the next level. And you cannot attain that when you're now starting. But your biggest challenge is to put out as much music as you get or as you can write until you find a fan base. Because finding a fan base is the biggest problem you'll encounter. Not putting out music, finding a fan base.
And it's so interesting you bring up that, because one of my early questions was along the lines of, when I think about YouTube and podcasting, this is so important to know your target audience. Is it important for a musician to have a sense of the target audience?
Another great question.
I'm on fire this morning.
Here we go. You will not find your target audience in terms of music. Your target audience will find you. And I struggled with this for many years, and I've now come to accept it. And it's unfortunate, but I have to accept it. No matter what tags I put on my music in terms of I play pop rock, I play rock, I play thrash metal, I play XYZ. The audience is the one that determines what it is that you play and what you perform, and they will listen to you based upon their listening experience in terms of the bands that they listen to already or the artists that they listen to. They will find a place in their hearts to accept you for what you are in terms of what they already listen to, and will become a fan or not become a fan. So just know that your audience has to find you, as I said. Yeah, that's the long version of it. It's a short question. It's a short answer.
Does that
supposed to be a short answer, but
this is something I'm always curious about, Does that affect your personal creativity from some point of view? That
yes.
Because this is the type of music I like to make, but now I'm making music that I know my audience likes.
Well, that is part of my problem. I decided that I was going to write music that had the radio appeal. So God's Gift of Annoyance was that radio song. I designed that song to hit certain hit certain keywords that would gain attention. God is one, annoyance is one, to bring attention to the song. And then the song was written in the format of radio airplay as a hit song. But in reality, that is one of my most favorite songs, most hated songs, and then also the people that listen to me, that is one of the last choices of songs that they actually listen to. They quicker listen to Room Full of Empty People or Chasing Cloud Shadows.
I particularly like that one, something about the cheesecake bleeding.
My cheesecake is bleeding.
Yeah, and you have a video for that on the
I have a
YouTube
video for
channel
that
as well.
Yeah. So my cheesecake is bleeding is one that is like far-fetched outside of the normal rock field. Is electronic, is more like in terms of 9 Inch Nails. God's Gift of Annoyance was more Nickelback. And I can't remember the rest.
How did venting into video affect, whether positively or negatively? How did venting into video help promote your music?
Well, now I have another medium that people can attach to. Before that, it was simply a sonic aspect, and it's hard for someone to connect with something when they're using one sense, one human sensory sense. Sense? Yeah. Versus video where you now have two senses. You can hear and you can see. If there was a way that I could incorporate smell into it, I would, but I can't, especially on Spotify. So generally, the songs that have the biggest impact on people are the ones that they connect with for some breakup or a wedding or some event in their life where they have this connection with a song and is now imprinted on them because of a life event. And using video helps create a life event in most circumstances if you have the budget to put it in that field. But in my case, I am just trying to create something visually that you can connect with as straight off the bat. I don't really know how to explain that one.
I'll tell you how
because I'm thinking about it as you said it.
I'll tell you how I connected with God's Gift of Annoyance. It's the first video on your tie-dye kitty page, posted about 7 years ago when I scrolled down. And I am not a big fan of music. I am interested in talking to you about the process and how do I do it as an independent musician if I want to. What I find I love behind the scenes. I don't know why.
Yes.
And I think about...
There's a producer in you.
Yeah, no, okay. Knowing the
way something was created.
Knowing the way something was created, myself as a self-published writer, as I mentioned, and you're looking at this team of guys. I think there was a girl in it as well, maybe. Yeah. And you're all together in your environment and you're doing your thing and you're trying to make it happen. and probably all the dreams and ambitions that are attached to it that I am not aware of, but you're getting to capture that snapshot in time. And I think it's wonderful that you documented that and that is standing there and that we even having this conversation years later. And fast forward now to 2023. What is the biggest success you have enjoyed as an independent musician in Trinidad?
I'm looking at him with deer in headlights because I'm totally shocked by that question. I appreciate it. And I'm trying to formulate in my mind what might be the best answer that I can give you. So I'm going to proceed by saying this. Notice the arm because I'm still stumped. But, okay.
Take your time. Take your time.
My biggest achievement. Whoa.
You want to think about it and we'll come back to it?
Stumped. And this is simply because you're dealing with somebody that has been chasing a dream for the past 20 plus years. And I've been in the music industry in Trinidad since I'm 18. I am now 49. And there is no definite time stamp that I could replay in my mind that says, hey, Sean, at this point, you made it. Because as far as I am concerned, I am a big failure, right? Financially, emotionally, in many instances, because I'm constantly trying to show other people my value by my work. And it is a big problem that I value myself only by my work and not by the person that I am and what I can offer as an individual, not as an individual that produces something, right? So I would think my biggest achievement was when I worked with Club One New Releases, which is a showcase out of Canada. This was between 2016 and 2018. So this was an international showcase that came to Trinidad to film our local artists and then pair them with Canadian artists out of Newfoundland to collaborate on music. This was promoted through the Ministry of Culture, Music NL, which is Music Newfoundland. And I had to go to Canada to also help with the production in Canada and in Trinidad, as I said. And this also went up the Caribbean islands. So they went to Barbados, Jamaica, etc., etc. But that was one of the biggest achievements that I've made personally here, doing what I do as an independent artist that was actually recognized, and I have credits in that show. So that's about it. Boom.
I like these little sound effects that you just drop and have a cell phone that I forget to put on silent yet again. What I'd like to talk a little bit about is that I have a song recorded where I went to someone with a bedroom studio. I chose to record it myself. What are my options in terms of distributing this song?
Ooh, another nice question. You have done your research. Most people do not understand that music distribution is a big part of the whole making it available, like you're self-publisher. So you have your books on Amazon, right? How many? 7 books? 6? 5? 5 books?
Yeah, I have 4 books, but 4 books, I've published 12 to date for different writers. Yeah, that's fine, man.
Right, cool. So you're using Amazon as your main distributor. Do you have any other distribution aspects or just...
I had other options in the past, but I stick to Amazon now. Right? Yeah,
because Amazon is like the most popular, right? Now, in terms of music, it goes this way: you have Spotify, which is highly popular because even in Trinidad, Spotify is free, except on mobile where you'll get ads. Then you have Apple Music, you have Deezer. So in reality, you have at least 150 stores that you can distribute your music to. I cannot go directly to Spotify to let them play my music. I have to pass through a music distributor, right? And so I use a free music distribution platform, which if you follow me on tiedikitty.com or YouTube tiedikitty, you will find that. And I will show you through my videos how to distribute your music for free. Other than that, you can go to other paid sites that give you this really nice package to make you feel that you're doing something important, but in reality, you're paying out of pocket for nothing. So, music distribution is very easy. You just have to know what to do. And as I said, I will show you how to do that aspect, because it's too technical to actually talk or speak of in a podcast, because there's so many different elements that come into play that is pointless trying to see that, because we'll be here for another, that in itself is an hour.
Okay, and when you use this music distributor and they upload it to Spotify, this is where you're getting that 0.00007 cents?
Yes. So every stream, as he just said, is 0.0007 cents per stream, and it takes a long time to build. So the more streams you get on each platform, the better for you as an independent artist.
Now, I asked you about your biggest success. What is the pinnacle of success for a singer from Trinidad and Tobago?
Lyndon, where you pull out these questions from? Lyndon.
Well, here's what, right? While you tie up your ponytail there, right? I have in my mind a target audience. We talked about target audience for music and whatnot. And I have a listener in mind. I am thinking about the person that has a passion. They're picking up the guitar, they're jamming with their friends. And, hey, we got to get a song there, boy. And we need to know how to get the song out there. And you've shared some of your knowledge on that, a lot of your knowledge on it. So I am asking questions on behalf of that person and all the realities that they could build for themselves. And they could sometimes just need to hear one little thing from a person that has 30 plus years experience.
Run that question by me again.
What is the pinnacle of success for an independent musician from Trinidad and Tobago? And maybe you could pull from examples of people that you've worked with or whatever.
The pinnacle of success is building a fan base. And building a fan base is not just about putting out music, but is also a big aspect of marketing your music. Marketing your music is writing to blogs, podcasts, everyone that you can find that has the ability to put your music or publicize your music or publish your music. To do this, it takes a great deal of research. So I, for one, not trying to toot my own horn, but I have a vast knowledge of platforms that I can give you that will help this process. But it also takes a bit of money to put out that sort of promotion, because generally anyone with a budget can go to something called a radio plugger. A radio plugger will take your music or a certain song that you have, create some sort of bio or interesting story on a certain song, like Lyndon mentioned, God's Gift of Annoyance by me. And they will then take that story and that song and pay radio stations to play that song internationally. All right? Now, that's just the first step. It's according to how many plays you get that the song will have an impact over a period of time that will gain you interest, because there's so much music out there that is very hard to make a footprint. So you need somebody to constantly remind people that you exist. That takes time, that takes money. So even though I can get your music to stores, you need to have a budget to actually promote your music that will actually put you in a position that you will find your footing. And that takes time and that takes patience.
Yeah, it takes a lot of patience. And Sean, I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate connecting with somebody that has gone a route. You're doing it in music. I have done it in books and videos in my own way. You got into videos for your music. I got into videos for my books. And we sitting here talking together. And I hope this really benefits some listener out there. I want to remind folks that the links are in the show notes to all of Sean's channels if you want to connect with him. So, Sean, is there anything I haven't asked you along the lines of independent musicians and music in Trinidad and Tobago that we need to talk about before we close off?
I would not say that. For me, let's say if I was to do something else, I would definitely try maybe another genre of music under another alias just to test the market. But in terms of you, if you had to write another genre of books, what would that genre be? Or if that is the term for books. Because I know there's sci-fi, you write, what do you write?
So I focus a lot on like crime fiction in Trinidad and Tobago. I love dark comedy. I don't know where I don't know where that came from, but I just love dark comedy.
You know why? I'll tell you why. Because there's a twist that people don't expect. It's like the other shoe dropping.
Yeah.
I know you can't see my facial expression, but yeah.
You'll be able to see it when we... So folks, we have you're probably listening to this on Spotify or wherever you consume your podcast, but there will be a video version of this available, whether it's on my channel or on SYW Media.
My camera cut off
your camera cut off
a long time.
So, Sean, thanks very much for being a guest. I know I didn't totally answer your question there with the books, but I think as an independent writer,
boom,
I have sort of given up on my dream of writing, and because I realized years ago that it isn't it can't be a commercial success. It hasn't been, a commercial success for me as an independent writer. And I realize that it is safer for me as a family man, taking money out of my own pocket to invest in my passion is safer for me to exit that field. And I hope the same is not for you with your music and tie-dye kitty in the long run. But
let's find a way to work together.
So I have made a decision to exit out of it. I don't know, but the nice thing about digital products is that you don't have to stock it. Years ago, when I did in 2008 did my books, it was along the lines of I have hard copies of it in stock and whatnot. And the good news is, like you see, when you started videos and people, they start finding your music, they're probably interested in it. You're generating small income streams along that lines. Through the YouTube videos, I would have that success from time to time, where people would reach out, hey, we're interested in the book. There's someone who wants to get Dad's book. You have to make deliveries for them. So it is always joyous to connect with them. But in terms of pursuing new material as an independent writer, I have kind of taken a backseat. I think I am hoping maybe that one day the work that I have put down, maybe it is discovered by a record label in your language.
Publisher.
Yeah, publisher. And they take it and they, hey, we could offer you a deal. And then it would have been worth the effort then of me independently publishing all these books. So that is my story.
It's the same thing here. So I appreciate what you said. And I will try my darndest best to help you as much as I can somehow formulate something outside of this podcast.
Thank you very much, Sean, and a real pleasure having you on board, sir.
Same here, brother.
Yeah, man.
Boom shaka.
Boom shakalaka.